Okay, we will have technology cooperate today. Hello, hello. How are you doing today? It has been so busy, so many exciting things going on. Melissa and I are going to share a little bit today, some helpful information and stories. So as soon as she pops in here, we will get going. While we're hanging in here a minute, I would love to hear from you guys on if you have experienced anxiety or if you have some favorite tools that help you with emotions, things like anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, all that kind of stuff. I would love to hear your favorite things that you love to use. We'll share a couple of things as well, a couple of insights and everything, and we'll go from there. So hopefully the live lets us do it. All right. Here we go. Okay, here we are. Let's see if I think it's gonna work. Okay, we got it. Awesome. Just have to be persistent, right? Especially when it comes to technology. Be a good problem solver. Okay.
Oh, okay, yay! All right, it made me rotate my phone. I wasn't prepared for that. Okay.
Oh man. Oh. Okay. I know, right? Some of these things we just learn trial by error, right? That's like life, I feel like. So many.
Yeah, for sure. I don't even know where should I look. It's weird. I think my camera's this way. Am I looking at you if I look right here?
Yeah, I think that's good. I think you're good. I think you're all good.
All right. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes. And so we're going to share a little bit about our experience and some helpful information on unraveling anxiety today. Melissa, do you want to start and share with us a little bit of what your experience has been?
Yeah, so I didn't know that I had anxiety. I just thought that was my normal way of functioning. I just thought that's how a human is, that you think, worry, and obsess about everything, and that you're afraid of everything, and that the worst possible scenario is definitely what's going to happen, and you have to think about it to be prepared for it. So that was like my typical way of functioning, and I just thought that that was normal. And I found myself in a situation where I was very stressed out because of this. Shingles on my back at like 28 years old. That was like, wild. And it was the Mayo Clinic. I had so many issues. I went to the Mayo Clinic and they said, you have anxiety, here's a meditation CD. And it still took me, and at that time, I was like, y'all don't know what you're talking about. I was like, meditation, this is ridiculous. And it took me years before I actually started like meditating. But I did the work and I was able to get to a point where I'm not overthinking. I'm not, having these constant thoughts of worry and predicting the worst possible scenario. In the past, so I just recently went camping all by myself, which is something I've never done before. I've only ever camped with family or with a friend or with someone. I've never gone by myself because it kind of scared, like the anxiety of doing something and like not knowing what you're doing and having no one there to support you used to be like just raging in my body. So like even like going on vacations or trips or things like that, if I didn't know where I was going or what I was doing or like how to do something, like at the campsite, there was no like check-in person, so you had to fill out a form and pay yourself, and something like that used to make my heart I'm gonna do it wrong, what's going on, I'm scared. And that used to be like my normal way of existing, was this constant heart palpitation, little bit sweaty, just like anxiety over seemingly simple things. And now I'm to the point where I'm like, okay, I just take the next right step. I just follow, you know, what it is I need to do. And there's no more incessant thinking and incessant thoughts, and the worries and the predictions are gone. So it's just amazing, you know, what you can do when you begin to learn to be aware of anxiety and understand what it is.
Okay. Yeah. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. I know I've had that tendency for many, many years. I mean, even I think as a child, I remember doing things like that with the, like, well, what if this happens? Oh, I'm going to mess it up. Oh no, what about this? What about this? Da, 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 thinking about all the problems, right? And that's not necessarily everyone, but I think it's more common than we might think. And so for you, you would say it was like an awareness was a big deal, right? Just recognizing when you were going down that sort of path with those thoughts, right?
And just knowing that it didn't need to be that way.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was the default setting. I thought that's just how you are, how people are. I didn't realize that there was another option. That you didn't have to function in that way.
Oh, this isn't normal. Like,
right? Oh, I don't have to have my heart palpitating every time I'm doing something new. Like, I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't even know that there was a way of like simmering that down. Like, I didn't even know it was anxiety. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, when I first discovered like this, when the meditation, when the Mayo Clinic gave me the meditation CD, that was in 2017. That was the first time someone told me that I had high functioning anxiety. And I was like, what? I don't even know what that means. What do you mean anxiety?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Wow.
So that began the journey of me, you know, learning this and discovering like why do I act like why do I function like that, and that there's another option, that I don't have to be that way.
Yeah. I think that's so important. I love that you said that. Getting to the reason why we're having those, you know, that concern, that issue, that feeling of overwhelm, whatever that might be that you're kind of struggling with. And I know that helped me a lot as well. One of my favorite quotes recently has been the quote that says, "Rule over your emotions before they rule over you." Wow. I'm like, we need to put that on a wall somewhere, right? And because it's so true. It's not that our emotions are bad. They indicate something is going on that needs to be addressed. And when we can just try to slow down a little bit, just enough to think like, okay, where is this coming from? Why am I feeling that? Do I feel, is it like fear? Is it fear of like failure? Is it fear that like whatever is going to go wrong, blah, blah, blah. And then what can I do to rule over that? That I'm going to be the one making the decision here. I'm not going to let that fear or that whatever it is, fill in the blank for you, have control, right, of your life pretty much, right? Because it gets to a point where our brain, and that actually directly correlates to, right, all of our stress hormones and our cortisol, our adrenaline, all that stuff is going to can get stuck in that fight or flight mode. Like, we just got to survive because we're afraid of whatever it is. And our brain can't tell the difference between being afraid of, you know, not finding a parking space and that there's a lion that's going to eat us alive. Like, our brain doesn't know the difference because it's the same chemical signals being sent, and the body has that same basic response, and the body and the brain have that same response. And then you, over time, if you get stuck in that too long, you start seeing the physical impacts of that more and more, with more inflammation, hormone imbalances, dysregulation of sleep and focus and mental clarity, all that stuff, which I think is what you were experiencing.
Yep. Yeah. In fact, I was under so much stress, and they needed, like, my cortisol levels were through the roof. I had to suck on a cotton sticker or cotton pad in my mouth for 15 minutes every morning to soak in the cortisol to see where my levels were at. That wasn't enough, or I forget which order I went in, but then I also had to pee in a jug all day long so they can test my urine. And it was all just stress, all just cortisol through the roof, because my body was in a constant fight or flight. And that's where I was able to fully get in and and by the way, I see Kimber watching. Hi, Kimber, I love you so much. Fully get into understanding that, because like, we live in our minds, right? Like, we're all in our minds all the time, thinking, wondering, pondering, thinking. but our body has a mind of its own that we are kind of like unaware of. So like, as you were just describing, our body and our brain are disconnected in a sense, as where they don't like, we are unconsciously aware that they are in communication. We don't have access necessarily to know what's going on in our body. So when, you know, you are in a situation of, oh, I'm running late to my appointment, your body will respond as if a tiger, a lion is coming to eat you. And that's where the anxiety is coming from. So the anxiety is actually a feeling in your body that a tiger is coming to eat you, and you are freaking terrified and afraid. And then all those thoughts go into your head. And now your head knows that you're not going to be eaten by a tiger, but it's like it thinks that being late to the appointment is as bad as being eaten by a tiger, which is why like the thoughts, oh my God, you're going to be late, you're going to ruin it, like that's how my thoughts just incessant. So when I understood the mind-body connection, that a lot of the feelings in my, the way that my body is and the way that my body feels and the signals that my body is sending up to my brain trigger it to cause the anxiety. So then I was like, okay, well, how do I get my body to not have this fear that a tiger is coming to eat me when I'm simply late or can't find a parking spot or, you know, missed a phone call, like whatever it is. There were so many, I was anxious over everything. Like everything was do or die. Everything was the end of the world, which explains that you think a tiger is going to eat you, life or death, right? So your brain is life or death on simple things as missing an appointment or can't find something, lost my keys, you know, whatever. It's life or death mode. And I see this in myself and I see it in my family where something simple will send us into almost a panic attack because our body is tiger, 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 run, tiger. And once you become aware that your body is just circulating these feelings of a tiger is coming to eat me, and then that's what's going up into your mind, causing you to panic about misplacing your keys, being able to calm that down is through your breath. That's what I have found for me, that if you're breathing shallow, it indicates to your body that you're afraid, that there is fear, that you need to run. So breathing shallow, breathing just in your chest, keeps you in that fight or flight mode. When you slow down and breathe from your belly and take nice, deep breaths, it tells your body that you are safe. Because you can't just think, I'm safe, there's no tiger coming to get me. Your brain and your body don't talk like that. It's all chemicals. So if you want the chemicals in your body to settle down, you've got to settle down the chemicals by breathing deep. Because if you're afraid, you're like, this is scary, I'm scared. Oh my God, a tiger's coming. So when you're breathing, you know, like that over missing your keys, it's sending the signals, you know, tiger is coming, ah! But when you could take big, deep breaths and slow things down, it gives you the space in your mind to separate from the fear and anxiety to say, oh, okay, this is kind of fake. This isn't real. This is just a hormone from my body that's making me believe that I am in mortal peril. But if I can breathe slowly and calm my body down, then I won't have the rush of thoughts to my head, that perpetual worry, thinking, prediction cycle. So breathing, more than the meditation CD, breathing is what I wish they would have told me about. You know, it's funny. I know a guy, Todd Newman, amazing man. He's also incredibly sexy. But besides that, he's a breathwork coach. And he said the most amazing thing I ever heard somebody say. He said, you can live weeks without food, days without water. You cannot live a moment without your breath. And like, we don't think about our breath hardly at all. Like it just happens without us thinking. But when you can consciously turn your mind from the worry and the fear to your breath, that is what allows you to slow down. That's what allows the chemicals to simmer and not send that rush of adrenaline that a tiger is coming to eat us. So breath is the pathway, is the door to slowing down and simmering that anxiety so that it's like moot. Like I definitely, like, there was a phone call I had today that almost rose the anxiety, but as soon as I felt myself getting like, I was like, breathe. I immediately took breaths. I immediately had that awareness that the anxiety was kicking in, and that in order to stop it or slow it down, I needed to breathe so that the chemicals would not be rushing.
Yes, yes, that is so good. And I've experienced that too. Just the other day, like I was trying to, meet with a client or whatever, and there were literally no parking spaces in this place, literally not one. And I drove around like a few times, and I was like getting that, that feeling. And then I was like, okay, listen, I reminded myself, I'm recognizing this pattern. This pattern doesn't go good places, right? I need to rule over this. I need to take back control, and I need to get my mind and my body harmonized here. So what I did was, it's very simple. Take some deep breaths, like you said, deep breathing. And instead of thinking, like the natural tendency was to think, oh my gosh, there's no parking spaces, blah, 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 right? Down, down, down to dark hole, right? I was like, no. There will be a parking space, and just deep breathing. There will be, and guess what? I turned around the corner. 10 seconds later, there was a parking spot right by the entrance.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying that we think something and it's just going to magically appear, but there's something very powerful when we bring into harmony that mind and the body together. And that's what I work with a lot of clients on. And many of my clients are similar to you and struggle with that. How do we have busy lives. We can't just make all the stress disappear, right? That's not possible. Life happens. Things happen. Things do go wrong. It's life. Nothing's going to be perfect. So how do we move through it in a different way? And that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. And I honestly, I had the exact same thing happen the other day. As I started my own business, Insurance Exam Queen, which is going very well. And I had an in-person meeting, which I was so excited about because they were local to Vegas. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be able to have a tutoring session in person and not on Zoom. And they gave me the address. And so I was driving there, and the address led me to like Ross. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't understand. So then I was like, okay, I have like 5 minutes. I'll call them. So I called, no answer. Call again, no answer. And I'm like, now it's time for the appointment. I have no idea where I am. And then the thoughts started coming in because the chemicals in my body started to get a little stressed out, like you're going to be late, because it's not like it is immediately over. You just like everything, you have to take time with it, and you get better and better at managing it every time. So what happened in this time was they weren't answering the phone, and then I felt my body start the anxiety, like you're going to be late, and then the thoughts start, you're going to be late, you just started this business, and how dare you be late to your first meeting, oh my God, you ruined everything. Like those were the thoughts that were starting to come in, because that's just how my brain has been programmed to run. Now I knew those, I was like, okay, I heard those thoughts, I allowed them to come in. I did not allow them to come in. They automatically came in, right? I allowed them to sit there. And I'm like, I understand that you have these worries and these fears, but it's okay. All is well. People are late. Mistakes happen. The address is bad. It's not your fault. You are not going to die because you're late to your appointment and you don't know where it is. So I took a moment to just like I had those thoughts there, and I'm like, okay, this will be all right. So then I just kind of like took some breaths instead of, because normally I would have been like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Like, blah, 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 like panicking, sweating, and just like my mind going a million miles an hour. None of that happened. And I just took some moments to breathe. And then I was like, okay, well, I remember I was like, this Ross is right next to the strip mall. And I actually remember being in the strip mall the other day and seeing an insurance office. Maybe it's in the strip mall. So then I drive to the strip mall, walk in, and then they finally answered it, because I kept trying to call. And then they finally answered, and everything was all good. Like there was zero issue, and they apologized. They're like, we're sorry about the address. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm late. But it like wasn't even a thing. But in the past, had I allowed those thoughts to run the show, instead of instead of acknowledging the thoughts for being anxious thoughts and not real, in the past, they would have become me. I would have become those thoughts. I would have been the one angry at myself for being late, beating myself up, thinking that I ruined my relationship with this customer. Like, the worst possible thoughts used to run my life. The worst possible predictions of a situation used to run my life. And it didn't. And it was so great. But again, the thoughts still come in, because as you're working through the anxiety, it's not an automatic shut-off switch. It's going to take some time to get that cycle out of your body. But the awareness that it's happening is so crucial. And once you have this awareness that those worry, predictive, crazy thoughts are coming in, you have that awareness, like, oh, those thoughts are just anxiety thoughts. They're not really real. They're coming in because my body thinks that a tiger is eating me, but I'm going to take some deep breaths and know that everything will work out. Everything will be okay. This is not the end of the world. Those are fun parts. Like, isn't that crazy?
Right. That's so good. And I think, yeah, you hit it right, on the head there. The awareness makes all the difference in the world. Once we can begin to recognize those patterns and we get stuck in that anxiety, whatever you want to call it, cycle, whatever it is, right? And, I think we also, like you said, we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace that it's not an instant magic thing. It does take some time, because how many years have we spent developing those patterns? 20 years, 30 years, whatever it might be, right? However old you are, basically, you started developing those patterns as a child. I mean, we won't get into all the things that, happen in our childhood and experiences through life that contribute to us developing those certain responses to different things because of bad things that have happened or whatever it is, different experiences. Yes, triggers, Lindsay, that's right. So once we have that awareness, we recognize those patterns, we recognize those things that trigger those responses, and we can start to practice and implement these tools. And over time, we develop new patterns in our brain. And if you guys haven't seen, I do a podcast that is called Soulistic Hope. If you guys go check out, I think it was episode 2, we actually talk about that a lot, and we go in a little bit more in depth. So if you guys want to go check that out, you can. But there are so many great tools, and everyone's going to be just a little bit different on what works for them. But we're really excited because we have created an online virtual summit for you guys. So awesome. So you get to actually hear from experts in the field of holistic health and holistic healing on different tools, not just for anxiety, but for overall mind, body, and soul wellness and healing, restoration. So if you guys are interested, and we're offering it totally free, which is amazing, we actually do have a registration. You can sign up to join that in June. So that is a Wednesday, June 15th. And that would be, it's in the afternoon at 4 p.m. So if you're interested in that, drop a comment here. We'll make sure we give you that registration. Yes.
4 p.m. What's the
4
time?
p.m. And that is Arizona time, which I believe right now is lined up with Mountain Time. So that would be 7 p.m. Eastern Time, if I can do the math. So if you guys want to join in,
sounds right.
That would be awesome.
Time zones.
I know, time zones there's a trigger right there, right?
Oh my gosh, when I first, and this is so cool too, because like I said at the beginning, I just started my business in January, and I messed up a dozen times with customers to scheduling appointments. I one time had a tutoring session. 3 people emailed me saying, our tutoring session is starting, where are you? And I'm like, what? I'm in this one. I thought you were an hour from now. And in the past, I would have lost my shit. I would have just completely been out of my mind thinking about how I ruined 3 relationships with all these customers and everything is the end of the world. But I was like, next right step. It's all right. Not the end of the world. And it all worked out. I just emailed the customers. We, sorted it out. Time zones, though, are like the bane of my existence with traveling and working with clients all over the country. But yeah, I used to have so much anxiety over it. And now it's just like, whatever. We'll just sort it out, get an online calc. We'll figure it out. No big deal.
Oh man, yeah.
Lindsay asked a question. Are either of you on medication? I am not on medication for anxiety or anything. The only medicine that I take on a daily basis is my Levoxyl, because I had my thyroid removed when I was 16, which that in and of itself, being hypothyroid, can be another contributing factor to anxiety and stress and all of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is something, I talk a lot with my clients on that, because you have to look at the different contributing factors. Sometimes it's things like stress and those patterns and things. And sometimes it is an actual biological factor that's contributing to those chemical, balances going on, like the thyroid is a really big one. Thyroid, endocrine system, and also like things like diabetes all contribute, because insulin is part of our endocrine system. So I won't go on all day about that. I'm going to do a whole other workshop on that. But if you want more information, and yes, that's another thing, Lindsay, is gut health. We talk about that a lot, because our gut contributes to 70 to 80% of our serotonin and melatonin and other things going on that directly impact our brain's function and all those balances. So absolutely. I don't take medications anymore. In the past, I also had a thyroid medication in the past. I actually have an autoimmune condition, as well as asthma and inflammatory things that can flare up here and there. But I have, over the past few years, gotten that pretty well managed using supplements, vitamins, minerals, herbs, and things like that. So if you want more details on it, just let us know here in the comments. I can send you what has helped me. Everyone is just a little bit different, which is why usually when I work with people, I kind of walk through exactly what you have going on, and then I recommend things based on your lifestyle, what your contributing factors are, and things like that for mind, body, soul wellness. But so if you want to register for the virtual summit in June, let us know here. We'll get you that registration. I cannot wait. I have been wanting to hear from some of these experts on holistic health and healing. These are people that I've read their books or watched their things or their podcasts or whatever for a long time, and I literally can't wait. I'm excited, because you never know everything. No one ever knows everything. We're all learning, and just life and experience, and every day you learn something new.
Yeah. And Lindsay, we plan to do this weekly. We're gonna make this a thing. Miriam and I love talking about this kind of stuff, and we know that more people need to be able to talk about this stuff, have the awareness of this, and get in sync with our mind and body. We treat mental health and physical health as completely separate things, when they are very extremely 100% intertwined, right? Mind and body are the same. Almost every medical condition, I don't want to say that, but so many medical conditions are related to stress and the things that are in our mind. It is our mind that stresses us out. It's not even our environment. It's our mind. It's how our mind responds to the environment, but how our body is also responding to the environment, thinking that everything is a tiger coming to eat us. Because that's just how our body, that's just how we evolved. It's how our bodies are. Right. So for me, I was completely disconnected from my mind and body. I thought they were two separate things, and that they didn't really talk to each other, and that mental health is psychiatrist, therapist, and body is doctor, and that they don't even go together, but they literally are the same thing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. This is why we're starting this, because these conversations need to happen more. People are afraid to talk about these things because they don't want to be judged that something's wrong with that or whatever. Fill in the blank. There's so many different things, stigmas, shame, whatever it is, and we need more conversations like this. So if you guys want to follow us, we will be doing more. We're going to do a series of lives here on Facebook, but we actually have our YouTube channel. So if you want to follow us, let us know here. Just say YouTube or something. We'll get you that so you can follow there as well. Because we've got lots of amazing things planned. So just stay tuned. But it's so important, that connection, because like you said, for so long people have treated them so separately, and they're not. We are a whole person. We are mind, body, and spirit. And when you're dealing with emotions, stress, all of those things. Grief is so huge. Like, people don't like to talk about it because, you know, maybe it feels a little bit sad or a little bit depressing, but we deal with grief. People deal with grief all the time. Losing a job, losing a whatever, a car, losing a pet,
A husband?
losing a relationships. Oh my gosh. So, you know, and like something like grief has such a profound effect mentally, emotionally, and biologically, but we skip that. We're afraid to talk about it. People don't want to make people sad, so they don't like to talk about it. We need to have more conversations. We need to support each other. We need to connect. We need to have more awareness and understanding of how these patterns work. What are the tools that we can use to overcome these patterns? What are the tools that we can use on a daily basis to function better? Even though life is still crazy, there's still things, there's still stuff, right? So that's what this is all about. So yes, follow us on our YouTube channel. We've got more things coming, and then we'll get you guys registered for the virtual summit. I cannot wait. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And you know, to that point, you know, my husband just left me. Like, it just happened. And I'm okay. Like, in the past, I would have been torn up, fetal position on the floor, crying my eyes out, hating life, wanting to die. That's how I've been in past relationships that ended, that I didn't expect them to end or whatever. And this time it was like I was completely, you know, capable of managing my emotions, of understanding what was going on, of understanding that my emotions are simply feelings that are moving through me, and they are not me. Because I think so much we identify with our emotion. And so the emotion of someone leaving me would have become my identity, and then I would have been, I am a person who is rejected, instead of understanding that I just had this emotion moving through me. So it's so powerful to become aware of the mind-body connection, so that you're not a grieving puddle on the floor when a relationship is over. You know, yes, and that's so
and you still go through the process, but yeah.
Yeah, and I have grief. There's times where I purposely have made myself cry to make sure that I'm moving through the emotions. So like I put on a sad movie. Yesterday I drove 12 hours from Arizona, or from I was technically in Utah, to Idaho, where I'm hanging out with family, and I went camping by myself for the first time, like we talked about at the beginning. I had always gone camping with a person, and the last time I went camping was with my husband in Utah, and I was like, I'm alone. I'm not with him. He's not here. And it was difficult. Like there was a feeling of that, but I knew that feeling wasn't me, and I didn't allow that feeling to become my identity. But I honored that feeling and held that feeling and understood. You're feeling sadness, which is normal. The last time you were here, he was with you. You had a good time. You wanted that, sort of lifestyle of, going camping with your husband. And it's normal that you would feel sad and upset about that. But that isn't who you are. I am not the feeling. I am simply feeling the feeling. And then I turned on some sappy music. I have a breakup list on my phone, playlist. I played all the songs. And then as I was driving, I cried, allowing those feelings to move through my body without taking on the identity. And then I didn't tell myself a story. That's the other thing, that anxiety is telling yourself a story. Oh, he left me because I'm awful and I'll never find love again, and I'm the worst human, and I'll now be alone forever, and I'll never be able to camp with someone else. And like, that storytelling is what I used to do all the time. And I don't tell stories anymore now when I'm sad. I just simply understand that I'm sad, and I think about, why I might be sad or whatever, but I don't create a story that keeps the sadness going. And that was such a big habit of mine that allowed the anxiety to overrun, was the story that the anxiety would tell me.
Yeah. I think a lot of us have done that. I know I have done that. And when I learned to kind of recognize, I don't know what my camera is doing, guys, sorry. When I learned to recognize that that's what was happening, and it was going down that story, first thing I learned, and I heard this on like a podcast one time, visualize it as a door. When you recognize that those thoughts are coming in, say, okay, you know what? No, I'm going to pause this and shut the door for a minute and think about it. Mm-hmm. Is this actually true? Or is this a story? Is this a what if, a contrived that this might blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So we have to recognize that. The other thing to
Yeah.
also keep in mind, which I'm sure that this will get discussed more in the summit as well, is it's fight or flight, right? So oftentimes the fight tendency is that, like the mental, like, how can I fix this? What do I do? Well, what if this and what if that? How do I find a solution? Blah, 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 right? That can be a fight response. There's other things too. And then there's also a flight response that some people literally, it's a shutdown. So you learn to recognize
fight, flight, or freeze, isn't it?
A freeze. There's a freeze. There's like a shutdown, a freeze, yeah. And then or like an escape. Flight is really escape, right? Like I'm gonna go to the bar and drink a bottle of wine or whatever. Like whatever that flight might be for different people, right? And or the freeze. Some people will literally shut down, and some people I've talked to, clients and everything, have shared that from a childhood age they had actually learned that was how they coped, was to shut down, and there became a huge separation between their mind and their body, and they didn't even understand what the thoughts and emotions were that were going on, because it literally just gets shut down. Like it's an automatic response to like basically shut it down and to flight or freeze or whatever that might look like. So just recognizing those things and beginning to like slow down, take those deep breaths and just process through it a little bit. It really only takes like a minute. And some of the things I go through with people are like the deep breathing. There's some pressure points that you can use to help your neurological system to just slow down for a minute and not be as much in that fight or flight. Of course, the mindset piece is really huge. So we'll go through some more things on the virtual summit as well, but we don't want to take too long today, and I have another meeting I got to get to. So thank you guys for joining in today. We love having you here. Love hearing your thoughts. Are we in therapy? Melissa, I believe you are currently in therapy. Yes.
Yes.
It's been a while since I have.
Yeah, this is one of the things I actually want to talk about in one of our episodes is in February of 2021, I had a brief psychotic episode and was put in a psychiatric hospital for 3 nights, and they wanted to give me bipolar medication. And that led me to going to therapy. And I've been in there. So I celebrated a full year of therapy in February. And then between me and my therapist, we actually decided that instead of weekly, because I was meeting every week, never missed a meeting. There was only like 1 week where we took off because he had a vacation. But even I had a birthday party in August at my family's house, and they threw me a surprise birthday party, but it was like during therapy. And I was like, I gotta go to therapy. I'll be back in an hour. So I was late to my own surprise party because I had to go to therapy, and it was absolutely important. Like, it was the most important thing, because if my mind is not okay, then I am not okay. And like, so therapy is what allows it to happen. But now, a few months ago, actually when I started my business, we switched to every other week. So every other week I'm in therapy. But he still asks me, he's like, are you sure? Like, are you sure you still need a session? And I'm like, I'm not ready to give you up yet. I still want my therapy. And then I also have a life coach, Christine Hayes, who's absolutely amazing. And she works on like, a lot of energetics and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely have support. I don't think that I could get through this mental health body journey connection without having that support system. So I love therapy. Therapy is the most amazing thing. But I will say that traditional therapy tends to lack a lot, in that if you had a physical issue and you go to a hospital, they'll immediately take care of it. You have a mental health issue, they're like, well, we need to get to know you for a while before we can start addressing this. And I'm not like that. That's too long for me. I ended up having an amazing therapist, and we didn't, have to spend a lot of time getting to know each other. I was very comfortable with him and just went right into it. But and a thing that I'm looking into now is RTT, Rapid Transformation Therapy. And I recently read the book. We should actually check into her, Miriam.
Okay.
Marissa Peer wrote RTT. And on my Facebook page, I made a post about anxiety or something. And then somebody said, how do you you begin to deal with it or whatever? And I said, I recommend RTT. Here's the book. And then I had a follower on my Facebook who's like, I'm RTT certified. Can I give you a free session? And I'm like, hell yeah. So I'm going to do RTT. I've only read the book. And I loved it 100%. Already gave it to my aunt. She already read it. She already has given copies to other people. But I will have my first, we did an intake meeting last week, and we'll have my first session on June 1st. So I'm really excited about that. But the whole thing with RTT is like immediately getting to the issue and solving it. But it's not like you have to dig through trauma. It's not a requirement. Whereas like traditional talk therapy, you might spend months and years, peeling back the layers. And that was something too with anxiety, was there's 1,000 million reasons why you may be anxious. It's not necessarily important to know the root cause of your anxiety before you can begin to address it and eliminate it. You can become aware of the anxiety now and understanding the mind-body connection without having to go, well, one time when I was 5 years old, my dad did this to me and now I have anxiety forever. It's not a requirement that you have to go back to that moment in time to be able to begin right now to address the anxiety. Yes, there is some connection. There is something in your past or your DNA from your family that something happened to them that causes you this anxiety. But the awareness of it. And I know I'm over talking maybe a little bit, but for anybody who's listening right now and you're like, how do I, because we talked about with the breath work, but when you're having an anxious moment, now that you've heard this conversation and you know that anxiety doesn't have to be your default setting, and you're like, I don't want to be anxious anymore. I want to, live like Melissa is and Miriam, where they're able to understand that the anxiety comes in and then set it aside and not let it be the primary function. But like we said, it's not a magic pill. The first things that you're going to be doing is after you have your anxiety and it happens, then you begin, okay, that was an anxious moment. In that moment, my heart was beating, and you may not, what I'm saying is you may not be able to pull yourself out of the anxiety in it. But the first few times, like initially, it's mostly the recognition that anxiety was running the show. So whatever situation, so let's say I'm parking the car, like we talked about earlier. If I'm parking the car, I can't find a parking spot, I'm going to be late to my meeting, anxiety fills my body, it runs the show, and then I get to my appointment later on that night, I can reflect and say, okay, obviously I was very anxious during this moment, anxiety ran the show. Next time this happens, I'm going to try and breathe. And like, even if you say that every night for a week and you didn't attempt breathing, the fact that you were still able to reflect and be aware of it is the first step. And that is so crucial. The awareness of the pattern, the awareness that your mind is blah, 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 like simply having the awareness of it. Once you're in the habit of being able to reflect, your next will be able to put in the breath. If I could breathe during the anxiety, then I will breathe, during the anxiety. Oh yes, so Kimber, RTT and EMDR. So EMDR is like rapid. I actually did EMDR my last therapy session. EMDR is like rapid eye movement, or like using two sides of your body. In fact, that's another thing you can do. If you're feeling anxious, move both sides of your body. It allows you to process things better. That's all EMDR is moving things side to side, getting both sides of your brains to kick in. EMDR is more about
trying to harmonize the two hemispheres of the brain.
Yeah. So and EMDR will show light,
center, midline too. So things where you're like do a stretch, where you're, or the like almost like a self-hug type thing.
I hug myself all the time.
Yeah. Cross over and do like a stretch, but cross over the center. Those kinds of things help with the two hemispheres of the brain. Yeah.
That's a good trick. I love that. Yeah.
That's why music therapy is like a whole other, oh my gosh, there's a music therapist. I might be able to get her to come onto our summit.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. Let's talk more about this next time. Let's talk about the comparisons between RTT and EMDR and stuff like that. Let's do that on the next week.
Oh, well, yeah, they are different. Yes, they are very different, but very effective. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it next. I think we're doing one next Wednesday, right? We're going to be on
Yeah, I'm
again.
good for next Wednesday.
Okay. So we'll chat more about that. We'll continue this discussion next Wednesday. We are so excited, and yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon. All right.
Yeah, we'll work on getting all the links, the YouTube links, everything set up. We're at the very beginning stages of this, but we are so excited to begin these conversations with people and talk more about this and not have it so closed door, like, oh, I have anxiety and I only talk about it with my doctor, my therapist, because I'm embarrassed about it. No, let's talk about it. Tell me that you're anxious when you're with me at the store so that I can help calm you down. Like, we need to co-create a safe space.
And support, like, support is so important, you know, really, really important. And, you know, with a therapist, with, you know, people that you trust in your life, to, you know, those kinds of things, and supporting each other and community, you know, as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys, we will talk soon. Okay. We'll chat with you soon, Lindsay. Okay. All right.